Thank you for everyone that's joined us today for today's Ask the Experts. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to optimize your utilization of Oracle Service Cloud and things to consider when looking at your license to grow or optimize into the future. I'll be your host today. My name is Colin Doggett, and I am in the role of our Director of Project Management with Communications Products Incorporated. Also on the call with me is Derek Chin, our Director of CX-Solutions. Without further ado, I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Chin, who will walk us through our presentation today.
Thank you very much, Colin. So what I wanted to do is I really wanted to start by kind of framing up what it is that we're really trying to talk about today. So, I think certainly anybody who's ever had any type of engagement with Oracle Service Cloud, what you'll find is that, licensing certainly is something that many people have questions about. And also what we've also found is that there certainly are times where you may not necessarily be 100% aware of what is included with your licensing. So part of today's exercise is to help you guys not only to look at and to understand exactly what we're talking about, but I think most importantly, to really have a better feel for how you might be able to find some of this information yourself. So first things first, what we have to do is we have to determine what you have in your current licensing. And when we talk about determining what you have in your current licensing, there are many questions that you may have. So what we've done is we've kind of distilled a couple of key questions that we really have found to be very useful when it comes to determining what you have. So first and foremost, you need to get a view of what your current licensing is, right? So engage your Oracle contact. We could certainly help you guys out with that. So, you certainly want us to serve that role for you. We can definitely do that. But also, if you're getting your licensing direct from Oracle, your Oracle salesperson can also help you with that as well. And so, get a copy of your current licensing agreement, and what you'll also want to get from Oracle specifically is your licensing utilization report. And this report actually will help you to see exactly how much of the current licensing that you're actually using. So if the current licensing shows you the maximum capacity on a period basis, which is typically a month, then the licensing utilization will actually show you how many of those licenses you've used, either month to month or even in the entire licensing period. And that will give us a really good start, to kind of balance between what you're able to use versus what you actually are using. The second part of this is asking yourself, do you know what should actually be included as part of your licensing? And this is a little bit of a loaded question, because certainly as you have those licensing discussions, there's many different versions of what Oracle licensing packages looks like. But most importantly, what every license package is meant to do is it's meant to be kind of right sized for your particular implementation or your particular instance. And in many cases, that's the way that it initially is kind of set out. What you may find, though, is that you may actually have a feature that you talked about in the very beginning that maybe you guys ended up not using. You potentially also may have had something added in that maybe was part of preliminary discussions, but then over the course of time, as that particular piece fell off the project, it may not have actually fallen off of your licensing agreement. So here's just a couple of questions that we would certainly we would encourage you guys to throw out there and to ask. So the first question, and this is really kind of where finding out what features you hold as part of your current licensing really comes into play. So the first question we would have is that what are the key features that are included at your licensing level? So Oracle has several licensing levels, and with each increasing level, there are additional features. Many of those features you probably are using in terms of, the common ones are incident management, contact management, um, you know, uh, potentially emailing, right? And so those are potential features that you may be aware of. But some other features may be the ability to chat, or the ability to have knowledge access to the knowledge base, the ability to have a customer portal, or the ability to be able to leverage tools like guided assistance or smart assistant those are features that may not necessarily be the big features that you had in mind, but absolutely could be factored into your licensing level. So it's important for us to discover exactly what key features are available at your licensing level, because we're not really proposing that you increase your licensing or you increasing your licensing level, but we just want to understand what you're already paying for so that we can help you to better use that. The next question is, which of these features are you using, right? So now that you've determined this list of available potential features, what you may find is that you guys absolutely are using every single feature. So, out of the list of 10 things, you may be using 10 things. And if that's the case, that's fantastic. But what we've found in most conversations with our clients is that that's typically not the case. If there's 10 features that are out there, most of the clients that we've begun to engage with, we really find that they're only using maybe 3 to 4 out of those 10 items. And so, it's essentially kind of leaving dollars on the table for you guys. So we can help you guys to fill that gap and to really increase how you guys are using it, mostly to benefit your organization. The next question we would ask is your team prepared for these other features, right? So it's not just that they're available, but do you actually have a team that's prepared for this? And a perfect example of this would be chat, right? So, chat is certainly something that people are very interested in. However, if you don't have agents that are not only prepared to chat, but also an organization that understands and actually accepts how to manage chat, then we would certainly say yes, it's something that you have, but maybe it's something that we need to hold off on at least until we do some more planning. And then the last question we would pose is, would there be a benefit to your team to begin using these other features, right? So, this is the classical question of just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And so, this is the ultimate part where we would really begin to balance, is there actually a benefit, or are you just using it just because you have it there? And so, with these 4 questions, we really feel that we can get a very good foundation of exactly how to leverage what you're already paying for and then how we can get you guys to the next step. All right. And so with all of these different pieces, this comes the ultimate question. Well, how do we jump on this potential opportunity for us? Because, what you may not have been aware of through some of this preliminary conversation is that you actually have features that you aren't using, or that it's relatively low effort for you to increase these features. And so, what we certainly want to do is we want to help you guys to get there. So, here's how you can actually start to take some action, right? So we just need to determine how we can utilize these unused features. And so, there's really 2 parts for us. The first part is planning, right? So there's got to be a business plan. And when we say business plan, there's a strategic business reason. So you may find that engaging customers over multiple channels, so maybe beyond just taking telephone calls and documenting those calls within Service Cloud, maybe it expands into chat, maybe it potentially also expands into email. So strategically, there may be something that really factors into that ultimately will either give you some cost savings or maybe wider availability. But in either case, there needs to be something strategic that you guys are planning to accomplish. So that's the first thing, is to identify what are those key performance indicators or those key initiatives that you're speaking to with this potential expansion into feature. The next thing that we'd want to determine is, through operations, is there actually, once again, this plan for how this is going to happen, right? Because features are fantastic and everybody gets very excited, but we do find that in some cases, people get a little overexcited, and what they forget is that there's actually people that have to execute these things. So, is operations then aligned in terms of that plan with your strategy? And so, do you have the right number of staff? Do you have the right time of day in which to deploy these new features? Do we have an actual plan as to how these agents are actually going to learn how to use these new features? Which then leads us into the training plan, right? So this is the transition of, change and, putting all these moving parts together. So, when we say training, does this just mean showing them how to use the workspace? Is there any type of philosophical training that we need to help them with? So, typically when we talk about things like chat or knowledge, there's a very different approach to how you're going to engage those particular segments versus your traditional contact center where you're just going to be logging a ticket and then finding things out. And so putting together this training plan then helps you to really understand if there are gaps. And so really there's vertical alignment between the strategy, the execution and operations, and then kind of the training piece, which is kind of a facilitator, right? So, I mean, if this is your plan, then this is how we're going to help you with your plan. And then last but not least, there's the organizational change component of this, right? Anytime we ever talk about doing something different, big or small, there's got to be a component of change management as part of this, right? And part of that change management is your change plan. So, what it what was it coming from? What is it going to? And most importantly, how are you going to transition your team from point A to point B? And with those pieces together, with those four parts, you'll have a fairly comprehensive plan. The second part of this is to act. And so when we say act, there's really three parts that we are thinking about. So one, it's knowing what you're going to do. And when we say knowing what you're going to do, this is the number one piece that you want to really identify as part of your business plan, your strategic plan. So have a clear goal for how you're actually going to, or what you're actually trying to solve for, right? Second, it's like far too often, especially when it comes to these kind of newer innovations, we ultimately need to approach these with asking the question of how can we do this? And that's an important part because, certainly if there's any part of your organization that feels hesitant, then you're not going to have the same level of success as if everybody was actually on board with this. And last but not least, we want to celebrate successes. So as you guys are having successes, the key to any successful project is to make sure that you're achieving milestones and that you're celebrating each of those milestones to keep the team motivated. So with that said, I'm going to pass it back to Colin, and he's going to talk a little bit about how CPI can help.
Thank you, Derek, for the introduction. A service that we are proud to offer from CPI is that we, as Derek said, are more than happy to engage with you on reviewing your licensing, reviewing how you use Service Cloud, and making sure it's optimized to fit your business goals and the outcomes that you desire. In order to, take that next step, we go ahead and share contact information for myself. So my name is Colin Doggett. And Derek, thank you. And my contact is cdoggett@cpi.solutions. As part of today's meeting, one thing that Derek has shared on the screen as well is a link where you are welcome to ask a question. We'll stay on the line for about the next 10 minutes, and we are going to answer any questions that you might have about licensing. If you have questions about optimization of Service Cloud, more than happy to take those at this time. Thank you, Derek.
Absolutely, Colin. So at this point, please feel free to go to the link at the top of the page. If you guys have any questions, please ask them through the link, and we'll certainly answer them for you. Our goal, especially when it comes to helping the Oracle Service Cloud community when it comes to optimization, is partially just to even help you guys to translate what's actually happening, because far too often what we find is that it's difficult to kind of navigate through some of this, and hopefully we can help in some way. All right, well, I'm not actually seeing any questions come through, but certainly if there are any additional questions after the end of this session, certainly please reach out to Colin and we'll be able to help you out, especially if you guys are interested in potentially doing a licensing review. And with that said, we'll draw this session to a close. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we certainly appreciate everybody's participation. Have a great day.